Hi, third graders. Today we're going to talk about something called flexible thinking. Have you guys ever had a situation where you wanted something to be a certain way and it got changed on you? Here's some examples. Maybe you were so excited to go over to a friend's house and they ended up having to cancel because someone in their family wasn't feeling well. So disappointing, right? Or maybe you wanted something in particular for dinner, and for whatever reason, that got changed, even though you were so excited about having that, right? For me, one time I got really upset because my daughter, she's in college, and she went away to college and she was going to come home to visit me. And there was a giant snowstorm. So guess what? Her plane got delayed and I had to wait a whole nother day to see her. Sometimes when things don't go our way, we get really upset. And the reason why we get really upset is because we're not being flexible thinkers. We want it our way and no other way. And I call that rock thinking, kind of like this rock, right? We get rock thinking, we want things our way and no other way, right? But let's back it up a little bit because I want to make sure we know the difference between what I mean by flexible and what I mean by inflexible or rock thinking. So I went around my house and I actually found something. I did actually find a rock in my house because I like to collect these. And as you can see, this ordinary household rock, it doesn't bend or change, does it? I mean, I could really put a lot of pressure on it, but it doesn't really change. Now, if I were to go outside and throw it maybe really hard against another rock, it might break. But it's definitely not going to bend, right? It doesn't change. It stays stuck in the same shape, right? When we're thinking about something flexible, we're talking about something that can change, right? Something that can bend and change and look a little different, right? So I found in my house, this is why I was holding this straw. This is actually a plastic straw. And this is a great example of something that is flexible, right? It can bend and it can change shape. I can even like turn it into like a circle, right? So it can bend and it can change. Well, our thinking can also bend and change if we have good strategies for staying calm when something doesn't go our way. So our thinking can bend and change, or sometimes what happens is we can get really stuck and be unable to change how we're thinking, and that can make us super upset. So if we're rock brain thinking, only thinking about something one way, that's going to probably cause us some stress, right? Because certain things can't change. I mean, we can't change if there's a giant thunderstorm snowstorm and the plane is delayed. Or you can't change if your friend's family member gets sick and you can't go over to their house and play. These are things that just can't change. They just are, right? And we can get really stuck in how frustrating that is. Or we can be a flexible thinker and think of a second plan or think of a different way to think about the situation so we don't feel just that bad, right? So an example, when I think about my daughter being late, at first I was rock brain. I was like, I'm so mad she's not coming in. I can't wait to see her. And I hadn't seen her for a really long time. But I couldn't do anything about the snowstorm. So I started trying to think flexibly about it so I wouldn't feel so bad. And so I thought to myself, all right, well, tomorrow, this is a true story, her plane is coming in early in the day as opposed to late in the day, which is what it was originally going to do. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to take her into Boston after I pick her up at the airport and have brunch at one of my most favorite restaurants in Boston. And that would be really fun. So I kind of thought flexibly. I was like, I can't really change that our plane's going to be late, but I can kind of think of maybe a second plan that would help me feel better. Okay? So we want to think flexibly. We don't want to think like a rock. Rock makes us really uncomfortable. It can even make us say or do things that make other people feel uncomfortable. We want to be a flexible thinker. Okay? So flexible just means that we can change and bend and think differently. So here's a flexible thinking story that I want to read you. I wish I had some pictures, but Nathan loves pizza. And he loves pizza so much that he could eat it every single day. Raise your hand if that's true for you. I love pizza. I don't know if I could eat it every day, but probably most days. So Nathaniel's family started a tradition, and that is to make every Friday pizza day. And he really gets excited. It's a tradition, and he looks forward to it every Friday. However, there's another tradition in his family, and that is when it's someone's birthday, that birthday person gets to pick what they're going to have for dinner. Well, Nathaniel's sister Julia has her birthday on Friday. Julia does not like pizza. At first, Nathaniel got really frustrated. What do you mean we can't have pizza? It's Pizza Friday. But then he started trying to think about how she felt it was her special day. She shouldn't have to eat pizza on her special day. And so he relaxed and he started to think flexibly. So even though he was disappointed, he understood that it was Friday and it was Julia's special day. And so Nathaniel thought to himself, I can't have pizza this Friday, but I can have it next Friday and I can look forward to it. So did he get really upset? At first, he was a little frustrated, but then when he started thinking flexibly, he felt a lot better. Okay, so flexible thinking really does work. So like I said, we can be really flexible with our minds, and it means we can change plans. We can think about something a little differently than we did before. And we can also think about other people's ideas too, just like Nathaniel did when he thought about his sister Julia's ideas about what she wanted for her birthday. Okay, so here's another flexible thinking story, and it's kind of interesting. So Thomas Adams, he's an inventor, and he lived in like the 1800s. He was trying to invent a substitute for rubber. He tried making rubber from tree sap, but he kept failing, right? Which can be really frustrating, right? So he kept failing. And then one day, you know what he decided to do? He popped the rubber into his mouth. And he decided that he kind of liked it. And as a result of his flexible thinking, he invented chewing gum. Isn't that insane? So sometimes it's really cool to be like, well, this isn't working. It's kind of a failure, but I'll think flexibly and see if I can make something else out of it. And he made chewing gum. Isn't that a cool story? So here's how we become a flexible thinker. The number one tip is to try to have another plan, okay? Sometimes our first choice doesn't work, and we have to think of ourselves, today, I'm not able to do that, but maybe I'll do this instead. So it's always like if something doesn't work, you think to yourself, what can be another plan that I can have? So here's an example, all right? Nayli, she wanted to play on the swings at recess, and that was her plan. However, all the swings were taken. Raise your hand if that has happened to you. I know that has happened to me, and that's kind of frustrating, right? Because that's what you're planning on doing, and then you can't do it. So her first plan didn't work, but she thought to herself, she didn't get upset. She didn't say, I want to be on the swings, and then have like a meltdown and make people really uncomfortable. She decided to think flexibly and thought, well, what can my other plan be? What else could Nayli do? So Nayli created a second plan, and she thought if the swings were taken, she would go on the slide with her friends. So that really helped her. if she didn't have a second plan, she might have gotten really sad and disappointed and frustrated, and that wouldn't have been necessarily great, right? So we have to think flexibly when we have a problem, okay? We just have to create a second plan. All right, so I have some questions down below that will help you practice making a second plan. Okay, so I want you to read them and see if you can think of a second plan the person in the card could have that would make it easier for them to feel good and not get so disappointed and to think flexibly about the problem. I also want you to listen to the book Duck Rabbit, because that's just fun practice on how to get your brain to think flexibly. And you'll see what I mean when you read Duck Rabbit. Okay? Talk to you guys later.